Just a quick heads up, tomorrow's show is going to be later than usual as I have an appointment in the morning that's going to be eating up a couple hours of my time. I'm not sure exactly when we'll be publishing, but it won't be anywhere near our 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Normal Time. Apologies for the delay. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, December 6th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 387 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day swings us all the way out west to Hawaii, where the Honolulu Police Department is backing off of its plans to require medical marijuana patients to turn in their firearms due to the fact that federal law still considers cannabis to be illegal. I've reported on this one earlier as the Honolulu PD sent out a batch of letters to medical marijuana patients telling them to either turn in their guns or to transfer them to someone who isn't a registered patient. Yesterday, police officials issued a press release saying that they were backing off of those plans for now, though they did say that any new gun permits would be denied to registered patients. Instead, police would be consulting with other government agencies before finalizing a new policy governing guns and medical marijuana. And once again, the silence from the National Rifle Association on this one is deafening, as they've issued none of their normal hysterical calls to protect the Second Amendment. The city of San Francisco appears to be on track for opening up adult use sales within a week of the turnover of the new year. This is another story I've touched on a few times in recent weeks and months, as San Francisco officials have struggled to devise a set of regulations allowing for dispensaries to sell adult use cannabis. Last night, the city's Board of Supervisors voted again in favor of a plan to do just that, with Mayor Ed Lee's signature being the final requirement for full passage. Assuming that Mayor Lee signs off on the regulations today, San Francisco dispensaries will be in the clear to sell adult use 1 month later, putting the opening date for non-medical sales at January 6th. And for our final top story of the day, medical marijuana dispensaries in Maryland have run out of product just a few days after opening up for the first time. As I reported earlier this week, the state's licensed cultivators are still working to get their full production flow going, leaving the few dispensaries that opened up on Friday without much supply to draw from. As Marijuana Business Daily is reporting, industry insiders are taking the disruption in stride, noting that supply shortages are to be expected and have been seen in most states that have legalized medical cannabis. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, the MJ Today Media Newsfeed, the most comprehensive news roundup in the business. The newsfeed goes out at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard every Monday through Saturday morning and has a state-by-state breakdown of all the relevant industry headlines that you need to know. There's no fluff, just links, headlines, and publishers, all organized by location. You obviously value cannabis news since you're listening to this podcast. Complete your journey to becoming a marijuana news Jedi by signing up for the newsfeed, which you can find over at mjtodaymedia.com/newsfeed. That's mjtodaymedia.com/newsfeed. All right, time for the blitz. The Canadian province of British Columbia just released details for how they plan to implement adult use legalization starting sometime next summer. As regular listeners know, Canada is rolling out nationwide adult use legalization next year, but is leaving it up to individual provinces and territories to work out the details for how it will work locally. British Columbia's plans calls for the legal age to use cannabis to be set at 19, while allowing both publicly and privately owned dispensaries to coexist, though distribution will be handled by the Liquor Distribution Branch, a governmental organization that currently oversees alcohol distribution. BC government officials are saying that more details for their plans will be released later in January or February. Swing over to CBC News for all the details on this one. Speaking of Canadian provinces releasing plans for implementing adult use, the province of Manitoba also laid out their proposed plans for rules and regulations yesterday, which will allow its citizens to buy cannabis both in brick and mortar stores as well as online, though it won't let them grow at home unless they're certified medical patients. Manitoba's minimum age to purchase cannabis will also be set at 19. The most interesting part of their announced plans are the two kind of retail stores that they will allow. One where no one under the age of 18 will be allowed in, and another where anyone of any age can enter, but that won't be free to actually display any cannabis products for sale within the store. Once again on this one, swing over to CBC News for the full dive in. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams recently spoke out in favor of researching the benefits of medical marijuana during a speech given to the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. Dr. Adams, who is not in favor of adult use legalization or the idea of smoking medical cannabis, nonetheless said, quote, "Medical marijuana, I believe it should be like any other drug. We need to let the FDA vet it, study it. The FDA has actually approved CBD oil and some derivatives of marijuana." Unquote. The U.S. Department of Justice reiterated on Friday that businesses involved in any way with state legal marijuana are not afforded the right to declare bankruptcy. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, what with prohibitionist throwback Attorney General Jeff Sessions in charge, but it's a nice reminder of the continuing conflict and difficult business environment created by the disparities between state and federal marijuana laws. Johnny Green over at Weed News is reporting that the Colorado Department of Agriculture has approved 4 different strains of industrial hemp seed to be used by Colorado farmers. State law requires that industrial hemp contain no more than 0.3% THC, so the approved seeds needed to first be tested to make sure they didn't produce a crop over that limit. As Johnny is reporting, Colorado has a handful of distinctly different growing regions within its borders, with the 4 approved hemp seeds chosen for their ability to grow within them. Meanwhile, officials with Washington State's Department of Agriculture say they will stop issuing permits to grow hemp due to the lack of funding for the program that oversees licensed distribution. The department said they need just over $300,000 from the state legislature to fund operations, and that without additional funds, they would just forego issuing new licenses. And finally for today, Oregon's Register Guard has a good story up about the struggles that medical marijuana dispensaries are going through as adult use sales and dispensaries take over the legal cannabis market. Since medical patients are free to purchase their medicine in adult use shops, dispensaries that only sell to medical patients are struggling to compete. This is another good one to read in full. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, the MJ Today Media Newsfeed, email newsletter, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.